Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today, we're going to be talking about the newest album from Lizzo called 'Cause I Love You. You know, I get the feeling, looking at Lizzo's career arc, that her story could have wound up being a lot different. And to explain all that, you really need to go back to her debut project in 2013, Lizzo Bangers. And if you're familiar at all with her larger discography, this project will kind of surprise you in sounding very little like her major label work. For one, it's a lot more underground hip-hop, produced mostly by Laserbeak of Doomtree, which kind of makes sense because she had moved from Houston to Minneapolis, and you could tell just how much her sound was influenced by the tropes and genre blending that came out of that scene, which is awesome. I've always been a huge fan of that sound, and while she took steps towards some thicker indie R&B atmospherics on her 2015 follow-up, it was a tone and style of hip-hop that I would love to see get more traction in the mainstream. But that was kind of quick to evaporate by the time she signed to Atlantic, mostly because the executives probably saw her huge personality and great singing voice and knew that she'd probably have a bunch of crossover appeal outside of the underground hip-hop that I like. So Laserbeak is gone and replaced by Ricky Reed, Oak, and X-Ambassadors. And look, this doesn't have to be a bad thing, but when I listened to her EP Coconut Oil, and then saw a tweet from a fellow critic suggesting that Lizzo might be falling in the same line as Bruno Mars in terms of her positioning and marketing, well, it makes sense coming out of Atlantic, and it's an easy and unfortunate comparison to make. But there is some truth in it. But a lot of great personality who is ultimately more palatable to a larger audience, making pastiches of sounds and styles that are not uniquely hers alone, only redeemed by the fact that she's a legitimately great talent on stage behind the microphone. Certainly better than when Ricky Reed tried a similar shtick with Meghan Trainor nearly 5 years ago. But suffice to say, my expectations for 'Cause I Love You were considerably diminished going into this, but this could still be a pretty good genre-blending album, right? Well, if I'm being honest, it's not that good. And let me clarify my opinion, it wouldn't be all that different if I had only ever heard the album and I didn't know her history. That's where the personal disappointment comes on my front, but the album's quality, one way or another, it's its own thing. And the unfortunate part of this conversation is that 'Cause I Love You is just mixed at best. Because while Lizzo is the sort of personality that will hurl this project over the finish line on force of will alone, you start going even a little bit deeper, it comes apart fast. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not good either. And look, you can tell that there are a lot of critics who are trying to give this album every benefit of the doubt because they like Lizzo's personality. Hell, I like Lizzo's personality, or at least I thought I did before we got a sanded down, increasingly cartoonish version of it on this album. Yes, she can sing her ass off with a sort of raw firepower I'm inclined to respect and like, with an exuberance that blows past so many of her peers right now. And you can tell on some level she's having a blast making this project. I'll give her this. In comparison with so much of the desaturated pop and R&B and trap that's out right now, Lizzo brings a lot of real personality and charisma to bear. So much so that in an already pretty short album, it feels kind of airless in a rush of adrenaline that desperately needs a moment to take a breath or slow down or modulate. Now granted, none of this is helped by the production. A lot more on this in a moment, where it seems like everybody forgot how to layer or track a mix for somebody with a huge raw voice like hers, but Lizzo seemed at least willing to step back and show more sides and emotional dimension on previous projects, or at the very least deliver some rap flows with some real complexity. Again, maybe it was a fool's hope to expect the flair and punch that she had on Lizzo Bangers, and I know that this project is trying to emphasize her singing more, and she's not going to go for a weird, off-kilter, underground hip-hop style, but when many of the cadences and structure are gone in favor of basic pop rap that wouldn't be out of place on a Meghan Trainor album, that's a problem. And given this is the streaming chart era where trap flows are everywhere, I have no idea why her team was encouraging her to not out-rap Gucci Mane, which I know for a fact she can do. But again, Lizzo is a real talent with the sort of charisma and presence that Meghan Trainor never had across multiple genres. So it's a goddamn shame that she's stuck with uneven production that can slip into a lot of Meghan Trainor's level way more often than it really should. And amazingly, it's not Ricky Reed who's primarily responsible for this. The broad 80s funk touches and the echoing guitars, they might remind me a little more of Cameo than Prince, especially with Lizzo's delivery. But on songs like Juice and Cry Baby, they've got a flair and richness and color that can match her personality. And the closing song, Lingerie, it is a welcome breather, even if it does sound like the guitar tones are being suffocated at the very back. Now the problem is that Ricky Reed is not the only producer on this album, and most of it we're stuck with either Oak of Pop and Oak or X-Ambassadors, and really all of them have a really bad habit of leaving Lizzo's voice to peak in the mix or not give her the space she really needs. So let's start with X-Ambassadors, and while being Lizzo's backing band is about the first time they've ever really been interesting, the missteps here, they're still glaring. Why is the drum fidelity so flat, leaving the percussion with no body? Why are so many of the horns crushed into these weirdly scuzzy electric guitars that don't match with anything? And with the title track, why is the main melodic motif going into a minor key, making it sound less like Lizzo's in pain and more like her lover is gonna get killed by her in slow motion? Why do the pianos sound so rinky-dinky off the leaden trap percussion on Heaven Help Me? And how are the vocals still so sloppily placed? You know what, at least Jerome, it plays into its lumpy waltz cadence with some humor and traces of soul, which is a lot more I can say about the majority of what Oak produced, while the buzzed out clusterfuck of Like a Girl, or even the trap groove somehow sounds even worse through the abortive attempts at New Jack Swing scratching across Soulmate and Exactly How I Feel, to whatever the hell happened to the guitars on Better in Color. It just does not sound good. I'm sadly reminded of a lot of what happened to Kelly Clarkson's last album, Meaning of Life, and I know I was on the minority with that project too, but where the percussion mixing emphasizes the clatter spiking off the 808s, and even if Lizzo's vocals are mixed badly, they're still the most dominant element in the mix that is stuck competing with the percussion, which leaves any actual melody or tune to die off in the background. Hell, even a song like Tempo, that just has to be a trap banger and it's got the built-in charisma of Missy Elliott, it's then got a melodic loop that just sounds like it's falling over itself and keeps shoving some synth embellishments and guitar melodies that sound more inviting than everything else here. It just pushes them to the background. And that's before they try to mix in Lizzo's flute into the outro, which is not a bad idea, and I honestly wish they could have found more room for that flute on the album in order to flesh out the melodies, but it's just not very well blended, like the majority of this project. Now granted, many of the problems that Lizzo is facing with production comes with the desire to throw everything at the wall by the producers to see what's gonna stick, be it soul or funk or the overmixed mess of late 2010s trap pop, with the vocal personality and the lyrics being all the core that Lizzo has to hold it together. And it's also where the album also kind of lost me. And let me start by saying, I get it, or more that I'm not really supposed to fully get this. The messages of empowerment and learning how to love oneself, they've always been a part of Lizzo's work, and not only are they emphatically not made for me, they probably also pick up more resonance for her target audience coming from her than your average pop starlet. I'll give her that. But considering how much humor and sheer firepower that Lizzo brings to so many of these songs without stopping to breathe or modulate, it's hard not to see this as being a little oversold or even sliding to the point of parody, especially with all the overproduction. Because on the one hand, you got cuts like Juice that land with a lot of real confidence and groove. It's one of the best songs here. Or a song like Jerome, which can play off that hilarious kiss off and stick the landing with its jokes. But then you get the empowerment songs that are not only so overdone in this brand of pop, but can feel painfully shallow when presented this broadly. I mean, it's not like we're getting anything that's all that transgressive or challenging from the pop feminism of Like a Girl, or the cupcake riff we get on Better in Color, or for as much as Soulmate plays up the whole self-love side and how she's so comfortable being alone, a lot of the writing starts slipping towards cliches or unconvincing platitudes. Again, I've heard a lot of similar sentiments and framing on Meghan Trainor songs. And while Lizzo does express them a hell of a lot better than Meghan Trainor, what gets kind of strange is that given how much she emphasizes letting all of her emotions out, showing every dimension of her personality, being comfortable laughing and crying and questioning and being sexy across Exactly How I Feel and Crybaby and Lingerie, which are all good things, I should add, it just feels kind of hollow because I've heard her earlier albums and I've heard the depth and the understated moments that this project bizarrely refuses to show. I don't know, it's hard to avoid the feeling that there's more lip service being paid to dimensionality and introspection on this project than it's actually coming through, not helped by writing choices that are trying really hard to be quirky and just kind of fall flat in self-satisfaction, mostly on Soulmate and that accessory line on Tempo, and really all of Gucci Mane's verse. But as a whole, Look, I'll admit going into this I had low expectations, and that the Lizzo album that I'd probably be most excited to hear will probably never come to pass. Believe it or not, I actually have accepted that. But this album should still be much better than it is, and at the end of the day, you wind up with an artist riding a justly deserved hype train on material that's just a lot flimsier than what's fueled it in the past. And I think signing to the major label might have been the problem in trying to shape her in that direction. And while I can absolutely see and appreciate the appeal, normally my place say, not my thing, just not for me, I'll move on. But the production is a sticking point and a consistent enough problem to hold this back, and I'm giving it a strong 5 out of 10. Again, I know I'm not going to make any fans or friends with this review, and I am thankful that at least her label's choice of singles is good. But for Lizzo's sake going forward, I really hope she can more consistently stick the landing. Because for me, yeah, I didn't love this. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. I can imagine most of you are pretty pissed off about this. The poll's right there. Y'all can tell me. And hey, if you want to buy or stream the album, links are down there below. I'm happy if you guys want to go support her. Because again, I think she's got a ton of potential. I just think the label's pushing her in the wrong direction. What else is new? But hey, anything else beyond that I can do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And just a quick reminder that Billboard Breakdown, when it is coming out tomorrow, as on schedule, it's on the new channel. I keep getting questions about where it is. I've got links to it in the title card right here. Please go check it out, and happy to see you guys on the new channel. I really appreciate the growth and support there. Beyond that, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time. I'm a thick bitch, I need tempo. Fuck it up to